social network presence, that's basically your page, your profile, your identity, your representation, if you like, on a social network. So I'm not talking about social network updates, posts, or tweets. It's actually your profile, say on LinkedIn, or your page for your business on Facebook. So just a little bit very quickly about me. I'm all about social media. Don't know a lot about IVF. So please bear that in mind. But social media is my thing. I'm actually, whilst I'm on stage, kind of cheating a little bit using a great tool called Buffer, and tweeting out the contents of this presentation as I speak. So for you, those of you that would rather use Twitter and look at a mobile phone screen or a tablet screen rather than the big screen here, then if you follow the IVF Live hashtag, then you'll kind of get the key points of this talk. And of course, there'll be a record there, so you can check that anytime over the coming days of the conference or even weeks. And if you'd like the slides, then please let me know afterwards, and I'll be happy to let you have the slides. Okay, so just going to skim through quickly what I'm going to be covering. Going to look at why your digital identity, your social network presence, why this is important. Going to illustrate some proper sort of key takeaway tips that you can use to make changes if you've already got Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Those are the three networks that I'm going to be looking at. And as we know from the question previously, massive change year on year from last year when very few people put up their hands around the question, do you have Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, to this year. If you haven't yet got them, then you can still use this information for when you come around to actually set them up, and then we'll take some questions at the end. So I think the first point why your social network presence is important is that it gives you an opportunity to showcase your clinic, your business, or your personality if that's important. There are some key phrases right on the very first slide that was I noticed that was put up here this afternoon about promoting your clinic and increasing your visibility. Those very important phrases. And by basically having a quality social network presence, you can help achieve those two objectives. Very important because there are just so many people on social networks now, and indeed we've seen the increase in the room over the past year, but that's true worldwide amongst everybody, and I don't want to bore you with too many stats, but just to sort of throw a few at you. For example, if we look at Facebook, in the UK now, pretty much half the population of the UK access Facebook every single day. Think about that for a moment. That's how much time people are spending on Facebook now. If we look at Twitter, 150,000 people have joined Twitter today already. And if we look at LinkedIn, then last week LinkedIn announced that they're now up to 250 million users or members worldwide. So big numbers, and people are spending a lot of time on social networks. So you do need to look smart, just as you're all looking smart here in the room today. Also, great way of attracting patients to you or attracting clients if you're a business, because if you don't look smart, if you haven't optimized your profile, then it's not going to happen. You're going to struggle to be shown up in search engines. All the major social networks, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, have their own search engines, and you can do key things, as we'll see shortly, to maximize the chances of being found on the search engines. And also, all the search engines, they're all searchable by Google. So they have their own search engines, and Google can access all that information, unless it's a private Facebook profile, but can generally access your business information on social networks. So basically helps you to be found. And the third key reason why it's important is that it can really boost your web traffic, something that's already been mentioned, and something that Peter will be following up tomorrow, what to do when people get to your website. But here we're going to be talking about how to actually increase the chances of getting visitors to your website, and increase those numbers, increase the numbers of visitors from social networks to a website. And it's not just about clicks though, because there's plenty of research out there that shows that visitors from social networks, by the time they get to your website, they are engaged people. They are interested in the services that your clinic is going to provide, because they'll have a bit of understanding, they have a relationship with you. If they've clicked that fan button on the like button on Facebook, if they've clicked the follow button on Twitter, if they've connected with you LinkedIn, there's a pre-existing relationship there. So that's a really positive thing by the time they get to your website. So going through the three main social networks, going to kick off with Facebook first of all, and just to go through the three different ways you can be represented on Facebook, and I think they've all been talked about already, but just to clarify this, because there's quite a lot of misunderstanding out there around this point. So the first point, that if you're a business, if you're a clinic, then you really do need a page. Virtually without exception. Facebook call it a Facebook page, but it's often referred to as a Facebook business page. You do not want a profile representing your business, and that's a big mistake that a lot of businesses and indeed clinics also make. You want a profile for yourself as a person, as an individual. The quotes on the screen, by the way, they're from Facebook, they're not my words, so they clearly state the situation here. So businesses, clinics, a page, and people for profiles. There's also a third entity called groups that are quite useful. That's great if you have a set number of people that want to talk around a particular subject, and perhaps in private as well, but as has been previously mentioned by Escher. So a group, it gives you kind of like a walled area, if you like, for discussing a particular topic or interest. So three ways to be represented there. Please don't get them mixed up. So we're going to be looking at pages and a few sort of key takeaway tips for you here. The first thing, that if you haven't already done it, and doing a bit of research for this talk, I've noticed that probably about 9 out of 10 clinic pages that I came across hadn't actually done this. You need to curate a web address, a unique personal web address for your Facebook page, and to do that you can just follow the real simple instructions on the screen there. If you do that, it means that you've got a consistent brand identity across the internet. So hopefully, if it hasn't already been taken, you'll be able to use the same name as your website, email, and so on, that represents your business correctly. If you don't do this, then you basically get a long string of numbers and some other gobbledygook in there that doesn't really quite look right. However, if you haven't yet set up a Facebook page, that's now kind of like taken care of, because they taught you through setting up your web address at the start. But if you've got a Facebook page that's perhaps a year or more older, then you might just want to check on that point. Second point is adding a cover photo. Really important. The cover photo on a Facebook page on some laptops takes up about a third of the page, a lot of space. And there's just been a recent change by Facebook which allows you to add text to the cover photo. So that's a really good opportunity to say something about your clinic, or perhaps add your web address or hashtag or a phone number. But the opportunity to add text is there, which also means you can actually turn it into an advert if you want to do that. So there's a bit of a sort of strap line on this one. Basically says what this business is all about. So Fertility Flower is a new cutting-edge ovulation calendar offering fertility monitoring using the natural and science-based symptothermal method. Tells you what that business does very clearly, as well as a branded image. So worst of all is not to put in a cover photo at all. So add a cover photo there. Second point, using an example from Ron's previous business, so my mistake there, apologies Ron. But basically to illustrate the point though, this still works quite well, in that here we have what's known as the profile picture area, and this is where logo, or going back to the previous example, a nice personal picture you can use in this area here. So that's what it's for. Some businesses will use that as their logo or as a personal picture, but basically, again, make use of it and also make sure it ties in with this whole cover picture area there. Another point in terms of driving visitors to your website is to add your website address to the front of your page. And to do that, you can basically add it to the short description here. And again, once you've set your Facebook page address, that's going to look, you're going to get your Facebook page address at the top, and here you definitely want to put in your website address. Sorry, not your Facebook page address, but your website address here, so that it's easy for people to click on that. And Facebook are actually doing you a favor here, because by putting in the www and the HTTP, the link there will be automatically hyperlinked, so people can click it and visit your website, or perhaps Twitter. You could add your Twitter URL or your blog if you blog on there. But it's worthwhile doing rather than just put in a few words there. And also put in your category there. I've noticed on a few pages that the category is missing there. You can see that one says women's health. There's a few categories around health that you can use for clinics on there. Big point about Facebook business page. In fact, it's kind of the name that they were referred to when they came out. Facebook timelines. It's a bit of a confusing term because it can refer to the whole page, but also a particular aspect of the page. Basically, you can illustrate your story of your clinic, story of your business over time. So you can put up a standard status update as a post, but you can backdate it. So rather than it going out here and now, you can backdate it to 1999, 1979, or wherever you want. So the idea there is for key events during the course of the history of your clinic, maybe new member of staff, maybe some achievements around an award perhaps, or opening new premises, anything sort of along those sort of lines, then add milestones. And important thing when you're doing that is to make it visual. So do add a photograph to go along with that milestone, and then that has a nice high impact, so people get a flavor and get to learn about your business and brand. Another point, this one might not be suitable for everybody, but this is one where there is a key personality associated with your clinic. So if you're a person that wants to stay behind the scenes, or perhaps you've got a board on your business or your clinic, this isn't for you. But if there's a key figure, key personality behind your clinic, then you can actually use your personal Facebook profile to promote your business. So you can do that by making simple changes, like ensuring that where you work or your business is actually your clinic, and that's listed on your personal profile, making sure that any business address, website address associated with your clinic is added to your own profile. So your website address, blog address, Twitter account, anything like that, so people can access them on an easy basis. And the other point is to ensure that it's just kind of like business orientated rather than extremely personal orientated, and to be very careful about your settings. So ensure that only who you want to see your status updates gets to see them. Not really enough time to go into it now, but you can actually use a very much underused Facebook concept called lists, where you can send out updates to specific groups of people. So for example, you could send out updates just to potential leads or to patients, perhaps. Another thing very new that Facebook have just added, which is quite interesting because perhaps it indicates that they're going to move more into this kind of professional area, maybe even take on LinkedIn, is that they've introduced a professional skills section. And you may not have noticed this because it is very recent, but do check your personal profile, and it could well be worth adding professional skills in this section, so that you've got that covered. So if somebody looks at your personal profile, they can see exactly what you're about. So moving on to Twitter, not so much to say about Twitter because there's just less to it. Basically, this is a standard sort of Twitter profile. There's quite a lot we can learn from this one. If we perhaps kick off at the top, We've got a gentleman's profile picture there, nice professional headshot, perfect, that's the sort of thing that you want there. Some businesses, again, depends whether you have a key person behind the business or if it's more corporate, they might have a logo there. But either way, I think it's good to show personality on a Twitter account there. So if you perhaps have got the business logo there, then somewhere in this other space, such as on the background, you could include a personal photograph or vice versa. And talking of the background, definitely try and make use of the background here. You can customize this. As you can see, it's basically an ad has been placed on the left-hand side here, and anything. It's just basically down to design. Anything that you wish to be displayed in terms of an image can be put on your Twitter background. And bit of a sales point, but if you haven't got access to an image person, then I work with somebody back in the UK that can do these for around about €40, something like that. So Twitter background, it basically personalizes your Twitter account. Other points are make sure that you've got your location, that's some coordinates there, so it's not so helpful. So try and make sure that you've got, say, your town and your state or your county there, even your country. Website, very important to add your website on there. You want to, again, that's back to the point about driving traffic to your website. And also header image. This image here that the logo sits on, we'll just look at a couple of those header images there. Worth again doing. Probably around about 90% of people on Twitter, it's just black. So make use of the space. Have a nice header image there that says something in terms of what it represents. Now the other point is the bio, which is basically your little description around here. Now, New York Times went as far as to say the Twitter bio is a postmodern art form. I'm not quite sure that I would go that far, but it is important. So the thing to learn about the bio is to include keywords, make sure that you get across exactly what you and your business are about. Maximize the use of the space. You've got 160 characters to work with there, so make sure that all those characters are used. And another interesting point is that this guy hasn't done it, but in this area, if it's appropriate, you can actually put in a web address, or you could put in a Twitter account name, even a hashtag, and they are automatically hyperlinked. So if you wish to direct traffic to another account, a website, or a hashtag, if you're running a campaign, let's say, then definitely worth noting that this area does support that. Okay, so moving on to final social network we're going to look at in the last 6 minutes, LinkedIn. So main thing with LinkedIn is to complete everything. There is a lot of sections on LinkedIn, but complete them really is the message. It's very easy to leave out parts, and it's also tempting to perhaps not visit your LinkedIn profile as often as you should. But remember, other people, lots of people are looking at your LinkedIn profile, so please do try and update it regularly. Profile picture, really important on LinkedIn. LinkedIn themselves say that you're 7 times more likely to show up in a LinkedIn search if you have a profile photo. So make sure that there's one added there, and we're going to look at a few photos in a second. Summary. Now the summary section on LinkedIn, quite a few people talk about their past. The summary sort of starts off, I have 27 years experience as an IVF doctor, or something along those lines. Don't do that. The summary is basically for what you're doing now, and perhaps even what you want to do in the future. Because right underneath the summary, there's an experience section. So that's for the past. That's what you have done in the past, including previous job roles. So you can talk about all your experience in the experience section. So summary, try and keep that focus to the present. Even sort of make it personal, and talk about you and the benefits that you can provide. Think of your audience, the benefits that you can provide your patients there. Skills and expertise is a relatively new area, so that's worth completing. It's tied in with something called endorsements. Now, you might have seen endorsements. LinkedIn are kind of pushing them really heavily, encouraging you to give endorsements for other people, and you've probably been receiving endorsements if you're on LinkedIn. Kind of got mixed feelings about endorsements. They're kind of, I guess, a sort of lighter version of recommendations. So perhaps you don't necessarily have to have met the person to give them an endorsement, but if you've read their book, you've read a good blog post, you've seen a video of theirs, you've seen them speak perhaps or whatever, and you want to endorse them, then that's kind of what endorsements are for. It just takes a click. They're pretty useful for getting noticed as well as getting recognition. So I'd say give endorsements as well as hoping to receive them. And please do add all your skills to the skills and expertise section. You can actually add as many as 50, so that's plenty of room to add all the skills that you possess on there. Another fairly new one is projects. Projects aren't added by default to your LinkedIn profile. So if you're involved in project work and different things from time to time, do add projects on there. And very important, although it's the last point on here, is add media. This is going relatively new, probably about 4 or 5 months ago, but most people haven't taken advantage. You don't want just a text-only profile. Kind of looks a bit dull and looks like everybody else's. So why not add photos, videos, PDFs, all sorts of exciting content like that that can really make your profile stand out compared with other people's. And you can do that in pretty much most of the sections now, from the summary for your, as we say, your current stuff, through to experience, where you can include videos, photos, white papers, etc., research that you want to make public, obviously, but that get an essence of you, the representation of your digital identity across to people looking at your LinkedIn profile. So on profile pictures, please don't do anything like this. These are some people that are actually... so the first one here, this is basically what happens if you don't add a photo. Doesn't look very exciting, does it? So please do add a photo, but not any of these. You know, this one, I mean, maybe the guy's a diver or something, but you can't see his face. So, you know, it's not a professional picture. LinkedIn is the professionals network. So, you know, why you would want to put something like that on your LinkedIn profile, I have no idea. This is, to be fair, the company's product, but this is from a personal profile, not a company page. It's not a particularly good photograph either, so not the right thing to do. This one is two people. It's actually the lady's profile here. This guy's an actor in the UK, Coronation Street, for those of you that are interested. But you're not anyone else in there. You just want you. This is a logo, absolutely fine for a company page, but not for your personal profile. Needs to be of you. And this one, I don't know what happened here. I really have got no idea. This one's quite interesting. This shows you how much larger LinkedIn profile pictures have become just over the last 2 years. So this guy's got a very strange photo anyway, but you can see how small the pictures were around about 2 years ago, and now they're big size, which again makes your profile stand out if you've got a good picture. So do make use of that. So some examples of what to do nicely. This is a great one. So it's professional, nice head and shoulders shot, and clear. You can see Georgios very nicely there. And you may recognize this guy here. Example of a great headline. So the point about this slide is that the area here, it's not a job title. Now, some people do put it on as a job title, and that's fine. But if your job title is managing director, general manager, director, something along those lines, head of practice, doesn't kind of like mean a lot. So take the opportunity to, again, use keywords and get across to people what it is that you actually do. So here we've got all the keywords and also where it's happening. So nice example of a headline there. Very important point, bit like the Facebook one, is to make sure you've got a nice, neat and clean personal address here. Can't see that very well, but basically this is just this guy's surname here. It just says Zakos, and that's what you want. Again, a bit like Facebook, you get a long string of numbers and it looks very ugly without that. It looks much neater with that full address there. Again, this might be familiar to you. The message here is to add all your information. So add your Twitter account, even Twitter accounts if you've got more than one. LinkedIn will support more than one Twitter account, and you can add as many as 3 websites there. So make sure that, that you do that. Also, if you haven't already got one and you run a clinic or a business, then LinkedIn uses the terminology company page, but as well as your personal profile, do set up a company page, as it's called here, with a description and so on. And also, very important to add the services that that you provide on the services section, as you can see on the screen. So, just to finish off, in summary, I think sort of 3 key points. Regularly review your social network profiles. Make sure that everything is completed, and make it visual with photos, videos, but also include keywords and trending terms. So those are terms that are currently in vogue, that are in fashion, that people are using. And all this will help you show up in search results and help you get your business out there and raise visibility of your clinic. So thank you very much. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Jonathan. Hello. Questions for Jonathan? There's my mic. Questions for Jonathan. By the way, I need to add we're about 45 minutes behind schedule, so we're going to compress our coffee break, which is after this, to 15 minutes. So a few questions for Jonathan before we break for 15 minutes. Yes, sir. Please come forward. To the microphone, please.
Being as that there's all these different social media sites now, it can take your marketing person 40 hours a week to manage each of these profiles and generate content. Is there any tools out there that would combine it all into one place, make it easy for somebody who's maybe a layman with technology to create their content, post their content, instead of having to go to each site, log in, post something, create hashtags on it because you're going to Twitter
Yep.
instead of Facebook. Is there any tools that you would recommend for that?
Well, Hootsuite is one that Yesha recommended earlier. Personally, I use a tool called Buffer that is great. It's really easy to work with. There's no software download because it's web-based, and it's pretty cheap, £6 a month, so about $10. And it basically enables you to post out to the 3 social networks we've been looking at, so Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, both profiles and company pages. On Facebook, both profiles and business pages. But I think there's kind of like important thing behind your question there is that, yes, there are a lot to update, and I think if it sort of comes down to it, then just pick one or pick 2. I think it's probably a mistake to just sort of fire out on everything. Better really to get one right than to do a whole lot wrong. And the other point I would make is that the business objective for your social network is really important. So consider that as part of your strategy. So if your strategy is to increase sales, or perhaps your aim is to boost visits to your website, then go with the social network that's going to achieve one or both of those aims, depending on what your strategy is. I think there's also an element of what you're comfortable with. I'm a big Twitter fan, for example, because I like the conversational style, the sort of short, snappy conversations that you can have on Twitter, but that might not be for everybody. So I would say, rather than trying to do, even with tools, rather than trying to do, like you say, there's hundreds of them, rather than trying to do 6 or 7, then pick 1 or pick 2 and go with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next question, please. Somebody?
Actually, I did have a quick question. Do you recommend Pinterest or Vine or any of those other guys?
Well, they're both visual social networks, so each has got their own merits. Pinterest, which has sort of come up briefly, it's like a Facebook, but it's a Facebook for photos and videos. So you have your 3 core social network elements. You have a homepage or a news feed, same thing. You have your personal profile, and you have a search element. But rather than having your text status updates like Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, it's all pictures or videos. So it's a very visual network. So if your product is visual, it lends itself to your business very well. If you're a clinic, perhaps not so much. That's not to say you should rule it out completely, because quite a few people, myself included, put blog posts onto Pinterest. So if you've got a blog post and you're including interesting photographs in your blog, then Pinterest can work quite well with that. Vine's very early days for Vine. Vine is incredibly short video format, 6 seconds, and it's basically an app. It's a company that Twitter bought, and personally, I find it really hard to get across anything in 6 seconds. I would prefer, and I do use Instagram video. It's kind of similar to Vine, purely on the basis, 2 things really. You get 15 seconds with Instagram, still not very long, but it's a bit longer to work with. And also Instagram is better for sharing out to other social networks.
Another question here, final question before we break.
Sorry, it was more a remark. Just wanted to mention HubSpot as well. It's a paid tool. There's a free trial. It's especially good for also for the issue you mentioned, and for bloggers, and it also has a lot of educational information. So
Yeah.
I think it makes you a better marketeer as you use it.
Yep, I'd endorse that. Just one quick sales message before I go to save time. I was due to speak later, but to save a bit of time, I am running one-to-one sessions, as you might have seen on the literature, and I've got, if anyone would like a postcard, I've got some postcards to hand out if you like one of those with information. Basically, it's half an hour session, sit down with you and go through a social network of your choice, and then pointing out the stuff that you can change and optimize. So it's half an hour, €50. So if you're interested, give me a shout afterwards, or if you'd like a leaflet, have a look. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well done. Thank you. So it's now 5:15, quarter past the hour. We'll reconvene at 5:30, 5:30.